Hello, Merry Christmas and welcome to the latest Blood Red podcast from the Liverpool Echo. I'm your host Joe Rimmer and joining me today is Paul Gorst. How are we, Paul?
All good. My Christmas shopping's finally done. Started late, finished late, but
It's not like
I'm done.
You, Paul, didn't leave it late.
Well, you know, a few things have been on. Liverpool playing every 18 hours has been a factor in it, but
What's your excuse for the other years if you like?
Well, Liverpool tend to play a lot, so I can kind of use that as much as I want. All good. Looking forward to a big game Saturday evening, which I'm sure we'll get into.
Yeah, and Theo Squires, how are you? What's Father Christmas bringing to you?
I don't know yet. That's all part of the fun, isn't it? The surprise. Hopefully,
what have you asked for? What's on your list?
3 points against Arsenal. That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Okay,
I suppose that's quite generic. We're all going to say that.
Yeah.
But yeah, looking forward to this top of the table clash on Saturday.
Yeah. But before we talk Arsenal, let's talk about the main thing everyone wants to talk about, and that's what's silver, gorgeous, and has three arms.
Yeah, I'm with you on the League Cup, loving, and I think Jamie Carragher's in our camp as well now, isn't he? After his,
it's a growing. I feel like I've been there a long time, but I feel like it's growing in numbers. Theo's thinking of joining us, and one day we'll convert Doyley.
Maybe
not ever.
Not a traditionalist like Doyley.
No, but it's great, isn't it? It's great fun, and it was great fun on Wednesday night.
Yeah, and just before we talk on Wednesday night, I'm looking ahead now to the final, the semi-final with Fulham. I know, yeah. So Liverpool play Fulham twice in January, and they also play Arsenal in the FA Cup, don't they, in January? I think there's an argument now for Liverpool sort of not being too interested in the FA Cup with the League Cup on the horizon. Go back to Wednesday night. It was probably Liverpool's performance of the season, I thought, alongside maybe Aston Villa in September or whatever that was. Liverpool generally being good at home, haven't they? I think United was the only game they haven't won, but they won that quite handily. First half, you could almost tell first 15 minutes that Liverpool were at it, shall we say, and just needed to make a breakthrough, and then it finally comes with Szoboszlai, and then as soon as that goes in, you don't really think that it's going to be anything other than a Liverpool win, but they needed the second, so Jones squeezing one in, it was the big breakthrough, and then West Ham kind of caved, didn't he? And I thought Liverpool got exactly what they deserved on the night. So many good performances. Harvey Elliott, Curtis Jones, Quansah takes another big step forward in his development. Szoboszlai, it's been a little bit patchy of late, hasn't he? You know, wonderful goal from him and performance to go with it. I thought Núñez was bright and inventive and aggressive, and he was just missing that goal, wasn't he? So yeah, loads to be happy with on the night. Joe Gomez continues his really good season.
He's getting close to that goal, isn't he?
He's getting closer, isn't he? Yeah.
He seems to be a conscious effort to get Joe Gomez a goal.
I'd love to see it. There was one in the second half, wasn't it, where he just picked it up at left back and he just ran and finish didn't match the run, but it's coming, it's getting closer. So everywhere you looked, loads of positives for Liverpool. No additional injury issues to be concerned about. A chance to give Gravenberch a chance to rest up. McAllister hopefully coming along as well, and all round a really good night.
See, that's what the thing I like about the FA Cup. The FA Cup, God, I don't like the FA Cup. The League Cup, Theo, is that, you know, in all seriousness, it takes the pressure off. There's a chance to experiment a bit. It's the same really for the Europa League, and I think for Liverpool this season, being Liverpool 2.0 and all that, there's been chance for them to sort of try some new players out, try some new formations. And the other night felt like a bit of a throwback. They sort of just went back to 4-3-3. It felt like Klopp's team just sort of the heavy metal, if you like, type style, and it seemed to work for them really well. But like Gorsey said, there were some good performances and some people that you probably say played themselves into contention against Arsenal, isn't it?
Yeah, Curtis Jones, I think he's the standout one, isn't he? You have to say he's going to be in that starting 11 against Arsenal. You just feel so much more confident when he's in that Liverpool team at the moment. He's so much more composed on the ball. He sets the press. Like we've talked about the midfielders in the past, like Lallana leads the press, or Firmino from the front. Jones is doing it now, and like we saw that from the very first minute against West Ham when he's trying to steal it off Areola's toes. He's so good at keeping possession. He plays the right passes, and we saw in midweek he's got a goal in his locker now, and this is stuff we saw at the academy we haven't quite seen at the first team level, but you can tell he's playing with confidence. Like when players don't have confidence, they maybe take an extra touch, they're not quite at it, but everything he seems to be doing at the moment's right, and you can definitely see how he's come on in the past year. Like we've probably not seen him play as much as he would have liked because he has had injury, he has had suspension, but there's that faith in him now. Like he knows the manager relies on him, he knows that he's not got the fans on his back, and he's just enjoying his football. Like he's gone away with England, he's won a tournament in the summer, he was brilliant at the end of last season, and he's been superb when he has played this year. You just want him to get that bit of rhythm now, add the goals to his game in the Premier Premier League and take it up a notch. But yeah, he's certainly played his way into contention there. I'd have no doubts playing them there, because when we're seeing Ryan Gravenberch, he's like flitting in and out of games, isn't he? He's like really good on the ball and can carry it forward, but that's something Jones can do as well. But then he's not quite got the decision making right in the final third. Well, we're seeing Jones can do that. He's definitely ahead of him in the pecking order if it was me picking the team.
Yeah, you'll know better than me, Gorsty. Jones, I always think when you see him in interviews and things like that, he comes across as quite confident.
Yeah.
But perhaps that hasn't always translated onto the pitch. Certainly, as Theo mentioned, in the youth teams, you saw a pretty confident player, quite a creative player, but he seems to have been a little bit up and down since he's broke through. But yeah, I like him as well. I think tactically he makes Liverpool a better team. He seems to hold on to the ball. And I thought, full enough, one of his other best performances this season came against West Ham at home when they beat them 3-1 early this season. What do you think? How do you feel about him? What's he like personally? Do you think is that the right characterisation?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Funnily enough, when I was writing the match report on Wednesday night, I was thinking back to a chat we had with him at Chelsea when Liverpool drew 0-0 and he was in the team. I think it was me and James Pearson, and we were actually talking to him for about 10 or 15 minutes, and he was quite relaxed and it was almost informal, and he was very much, saying, you know me, I'm a confident lad and I back myself, and I know that the staff here do, and he felt like he had kind of a debt to repay to Klopp, to kind of repay his faith and regain his trust, I think he said at the time, and certainly since that game he's been almost an ever-presence, hasn't he, apart from the sending off against Tottenham and then that injury that kind of knocked him out of his stride a little bit, but certainly before the sending off he was one of the first names on the team sheet, and performances like Wednesday night are the reason why he's kind of got this newfound status within the squad. So yeah, it was a big step forward for him really in this season, and now he's played himself into the starting 11 for me without doubt. One of the other things he said as well in that chat that I referenced was he wasn't really concerned about who Liverpool were going to bring in. At the time there was still talk of Jude Bellingham and whoever else, and Liverpool have totally restructured the midfield, haven't they, since 4 new midfielders, was it 5 who've left in total, and he remains and has kind of moved up the pecking order since then due to his performances at the back end of last season and certainly at the start of this season. So yeah, a massive chance for him to kick on now, and going off Wednesday night, I think he's kind of poised to do that if he can stay injury free.
How close are you, Theo, from putting Jarell Quansah in Liverpool's team more permanently?
I said this to Gorsty, I think, during the game. He can't be far off, but it comes with rhythm. Like, Ganate's probably the man in possession of that shirt at the moment, and he could have a run of games, stay injury free, and then he's back to his best. He hasn't had the rhythm this season, and that's where the doubts creep in. We had the same doubts about Tsimikas when he first came to the side after Robertson's injury, but Quansah's not doing anything wrong at all, is he? He's just got everything you need as a centre-back. He's quick, he seems to win everything in the box, both on the floor and in the air. He reads it so well. He's obviously really good at the diagonal passes that are Van Dijk-esque, but then he can do the short, simple ones as well.
Passing is so good. I mean,
he got the assist, wasn't it, for Szoboszlai?
And also just that interception, sorry to jump in, but that interception was so good, wasn't it? Coming up the pitch, high up the pitch, and getting Liverpool back on the front foot. I'm sure Klopp would have been very pleased. But
yeah, like you were saying earlier, that rock and roll, heavy metal football for Liverpool, that was basically what we saw from that. That was that moment where Quansah, he's taken a risk stepping forward. If he misses this tackle, West Ham are in a counter, but he times it perfectly. He'll maybe feel like he got sidestepped a little too easily for Bowen's goal, but does it really matter when you win 5-1 and he's still a young player learning his trade? And it's a rare opportunity for him to actually get some minutes alongside Van Dijk, because most of his game time's been again alongside a Gomez or Matip, Konate, and he's taken these strides now. Like with Matip out for the season, he's proven why Liverpool might not necessarily need a new centre-back if they can keep these 4 free of injury. Like Gomez is playing so well as well, even though we're seeing predominantly at right back. But you're happy to have, say, Gomez right back, Trent midfield, and Quansah and Konate competing for that final centre-back slot. But you can see why Liverpool held him in such high regards, and he's come on leaps and bounds. Like, I don't think any of us saw him being someone who could start so many games for Liverpool at the start of the year when he was going on loan to Bristol Rovers, and it's another success story for the academy. Yeah,
it certainly is. What have you made? Have you spoke to him behind the scenes at any point yet?
Quansah, no. He doesn't really venture through the mix zone in the games that he has played. So no, unable to offer an insight into his character.
No, sorry. All right. Moving on, Trent came on in midfield, and I know it wasn't really a theme of the game, if you like, but do you feel like we're creeping towards Trent being a more permanent midfielder. I thought that was quite telling that he was brought on there, and I thought Joe Gomez played well again. So do you think that's something that we could be seeing more permanently?
Yeah, I think Klopp will just try and do it as quietly as you can, only to avoid any kind of scrutiny around it. I mean, he played the pass for Salah's goal as well, didn't he? You know, it was
an incredible pass. That
it was great. I mean, the West Ham defenders had passed it, but still to play it as he slipped all the way up the pitch. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think the big question Liverpool have got is a kind of post-Trent World at right back. You know, what do they want their right backs to look like? Because Alexander-Arnold has totally redefined what you'd expect from a fullback, certainly for Liverpool anyway, over the last 5 years. So did you want a bit more of a kind of, you know, I mean, say this in positive light, but a bit more garden variety in terms of Joe Gomez? You know, he gets the ball, keeps his width, gets down line, and maybe looks to get across, you know, or shuffle it across to more central areas, doesn't he? I think Gomez is having a superb season, but he's never going to be able to do what Trent Alexander-Arnold does at right back, which is fair enough. But I suppose the trade-off is what you're able to get Alexander-Arnold to do in certain areas of the pitch a bit further forward. So, yeah, I mean, it's a debate we've had for years and years, and I've kind of slowly but surely waned on my stance. But I suppose the upshot of it is, wherever you put Alexander-Arnold, just get him on the ball, and he'll be able to create something for you eventually. And I think he'll have a massive say on Saturday as well.
Yeah, Theo, you want to add to that at all?
Yeah, I think it comes down to who's available in midfield. Like, we're going to see Endo go off to the Asian Cup in January. We've still got Pasetic out. You've still got Thiago out. Gravenberch has missed a couple of games, or will do. McAllister's, I think he's been ruled out until January now as well. Like, with these midfield absences, they've had to put Trent in midfield, and he stepped up. He's shown why he wants to play there. It's a question where if he still plays there when everyone's back, or if he is better being at right back. But at least with Joe Gomez, he is playing so well, as Gorsty said, and it's quite telling when you listen to Klopp in these post-match press conferences. He's always saying, we needed more width, so he brought Joe Gomez on, and he's done a great job. Yeah. So that's normally what Trent was there for in the traditional role. He was the one out wide, providing the crosses. But you've seen how Gomez has come on, like, he's making those supporting runs, whether it's going on the outside alongside Salah, but he can drop back as well and be that third centre-back if you're going down the other flank. And you've still got Connor Bradley there, who would have played more this season if not for injury. Calvin Ramsey was someone they rated so highly when they signed him. They were saying that he was going to be a fullback who can be a Trent and how they want their players to play. He's not had the best of time with injury. He's had COVID on loan at Preston as well. But if he has a good second half of the season on loan in the Championship, then maybe you can make that permanent claim for Trent in midfield in the future. Because if you've got him and Bradley and then Gomez as your right back options, and you've got Trent getting all these goals and assists in midfield, still able to go out wide, then it's certainly a strong position in the squad. The question for me, though, is he a number 6 or is he a number 8? Like, he can do both clearly, but do you want him that bit further forward, or do you want him being like the trademark Pirlo sort of sitting deep, doing those spreading passes? But when he's so good in the final third as well, you'd still want a bit more of him offensively. And we saw that against Fulham, like in that double pivot, he was still getting the winning goal. Maybe that's another thing to consider as well, the change of formation, because when you look at McAllister, Endo, these are players that suit a double pivot. It gets the best of Elliott as a number 10 or Szoboszlai further forward. There's certainly plenty for Klopp to consider, but he doesn't have to consider it just yet when he's still got so many players injured. It's just putting a team together from who's available. Yeah.
Okay, Gorsty, let's have a little chat about the Anfield atmosphere, which Klopp ensured was still in the headlines after the game. I suspect you think there's a bit of mind games going on there from the Liverpool manager. Yeah, I do. It was a response to a question from the Telegraph's Mike McGrath, I think, and the question I listened to it back just before we come on, actually, and I think the questions are around about the Fulham semi-final, and what kind of lift does it get? Does it give your club when you're able to beat them and go into the final? And there's a bit of a feel-good factor around the place once that happens. And the response from Klopp, he started talking about the atmosphere. It wasn't anything to do with the question. So it's very much a battle that he's picked there. And he said that neither. I think it was in the first half, he's kind of turned around and said to some of the fans who were having a moan, what do you want? I think what kind of wound them up was the fact that Liverpool were playing really well, and they were still getting criticised from some of the supporters in the stands, and I think maybe the fans were a little bit annoyed that the dominance, still had them 0-0 on the scoreline, or 1-0, whatever it was at the time. But
I think with Arsenal coming up, I think, brand new Anfield Road stand, 57,000 is it for that one? I think maybe he was a little bit put out by the atmosphere on Sunday, because it started well, but as the game wore on, it started to wane, and it was almost, by the second half, it was almost like the type of atmosphere that you hear when Liverpool are losing to a lower league team in the Cup. It was very much an air of frustration about
rather
everything.
Than draw into a lower league team in the Premier League.
Well, exactly that, yeah. It was like frustration when things weren't coming off, and if shots were going over the bar or wide or hitting the side net and whatever it was, rather than kind of encouragement. So I think Klopp might have been a little bit surprised by that. And he knows how vital the atmosphere will be on Saturday. It could be the difference between a point and a win, particularly with Arsenal, with the way that they've sort of wilted in the last couple of years. Klopp referenced the argument with Arteta that he had in 2021. It was only after that happened that the atmosphere rose and Liverpool ended up winning 4-0. It was 0-0 at the time. And of course, when they were losing 2-0 at Anfield in April, before, was it Xhaka had the argument with Alexander-Arnold, and then Anfield rose again and Liverpool ended up fighting their way back into the game. So Arsenal haven't won there since 2012. Arteta's spoken about freezing at Anfield before in the past, where he feels stuck and unable to influence anything. And I think he referenced a game for Arsenal in 2014 when Liverpool won 5-1. Liverpool got a great record there against them in recent years, and I think Klopp just leaning on the fans a little bit just to provide that extra 5-10% for the players, and then the players will respond in kind, and it could make all the difference on Saturday and then for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean, Klopp may be playing mind games, but it hasn't helped the fact that Anfield atmosphere has been the spotlight all week. Gary Neville got it started, didn't he, with the talk on Sunday, and then obviously Klopp has sort of accentuated it with his comments the other day. Theo, I always find I'm always a bit uncomfortable with a manager talking about the atmosphere, because let's face it, there's so many different aspects that go into it: ticket prices, accessibility, kick-off times. That I think a manager pointing the finger at his own fans can just be, and Klopp, because of his status, almost since the word go, has kind of got away with it. I wouldn't say got away with it, but certainly spun it in a positive. He got Liverpool fans really believing again, didn't he? I know it's a bit of a cliche, but he did. He got the atmospheres up again. But it's a wider problem, though, isn't it? In terms of the atmospheres, what I'm trying to say is that the manager could be going to his own bosses and saying, look, we need to make this place a bit more accessible. We need to bring down ticket prices. We need to get more young people into the ground. There's more to it, isn't there, than just a come on. And I don't really like the manager picking on someone in the crowd and saying he's got every right to say stop moaning, but it felt a bit pointed.
Yeah, there's plenty in it. Accessibility is one. Like, from Liverpool being so successful, tickets are obviously going to be more expensive and harder to get, and you are pricing out local fans that you'd maybe expect to put out a bit more of an atmosphere because they've been part of it for years and years and years. I still think there's after effects of COVID, when so much football was taking place and you were seeing every single game televised, and then when it came back, Liverpool going for quadruple, they were playing so many times a week, there was burnout there, and then fans were damaged by the Champions League final. You wanted a break, and then Liverpool were a bit rubbish for a season. Like, that, you're waiting for something to kick it back into life. Like, they were robbed of the party from winning the Premier League title, and you're still waiting for it to be back at those heights again. And this year it's not helped by the fact that they're in the Europa League. They've not really, up until United, played anyone where you'd expect a really rocket of an atmosphere. And while it did start well against them, if Liverpool got that early goal, you build on that. That didn't happen, and you can see why Klopp was frustrated there. But there is so much that comes into it. And it is a relationship between the two, isn't it? Like, the team needs to give them something to feed off, but the fans need to give the team something to feed off too. Like Klopp said at the test event for the new stand that he couldn't wait for the atmosphere, and he was going to tell the boys to feed off it and use that against Manchester United, and it didn't really happen. So you can see why he's put this out there, because he wants it to be different against Arsenal, because they can wilt under the pressure. Like, this is a side that have had You'll Never Walk Alone playing in their training sessions before games to try and get them ready for it, and it's not quite worked. Like, they thought they were going to get that win on the way to the title race last year, 2-0 up, threw it away, and then the form just fell apart a little bit, and they ended up costing him come the end of the season. And while it's too early to say whether it will cost them the title now, you know how important it could be for Liverpool to get those points, be top of the table at Christmas time, and then we've potentially got a League Cup final to look forward to if it all goes well in the second half of the season. Europa League final too, if you have a good run in that. I'm all with Gorsty on sack off the FA Cup now. It's just an unwanted distraction. It's not like the League Cup where you win 2-3 games and you're at Wembley. It could be a really strong second half of the season for Liverpool, players back from injury, and it could get that extra bit of fire in the fans. But they need to show something against Arsenal. I'm sure they will.
Okay. Right, well, let's talk Arsenal, Gorsty. How good do you think this Arsenal team is? Do you think they are potential title winners? Do you think that they're just a step behind? Do you think that they're that much better than Liverpool or on par?
Yeah, I don't think they're that much better than Liverpool. I think I've said for months really that I think the lowest Liverpool will finish will be third, and I still kind of back them to finish above Arsenal. They're a good side. They've got some really quality players. You know, Odegaard, Declan Rice has been huge for them. Saliba at the back.
Love Declan Rice. I think he's a fantastic
he's unbelievable.
player.
The engine on him, the motor. That's why he cost what he did, I guess. But top player. The big question mark is, do they have the goal scorer in the team? I'm not sure whether they do. They certainly don't have the firepower of Liverpool. You know, Saka, Martinelli, Jesus is really good, but what's their combined total going to be for goals this season? It's probably going to be fewer than what Liverpool's are going to post, isn't it? Salah's already on 15 for the whole campaign. But they're really good. I suppose the big question mark is the goalkeeper situation. David Raya, Adam Ramsdale, Mikel Arteta seemingly doesn't know who's number one is there. I think Klopp tried that, didn't he, with Mignolet and Karius, sort of making the distinction between Premier League and Champions League games, and still not sure why he did that all those years on. And Arsenal seem to be suffering a similar thing at the moment. A couple of injuries as well, haven't he? Obviously Julian Timber, I don't think he's played since the first game of the season against Nottingham Forest. Yeah, Thomas Partey's still out injured, is he? So they are good, but certainly Liverpool can welcome them to Anfield, fancying themselves as favourites. And okay, it's only a kind of minor psychological thing to be top on Christmas Day, but just think of how good that'd feel for a team who probably will be ahead of schedule if that's where they are.
Yeah, Theo, there seems to be a lot of people saying that this could be Arsenal's title to lose. You know, it's still very, very close to the top. Do you think that Liverpool will want to prove a point almost?
There'll certainly be a statement if they can send that win out there. Like Arsenal, they got a big win against City, didn't they, earlier in the season, but they've dropped points as well. Like we saw them when they got that last-minute winner against Luton. They were celebrating like they won the league. You do that in April. You don't do that in November, December time. Like they've got a couple of players they signed from City who have won the Premier League, but it still feels like they're lacking that little bit extra to have that experience. And I know you get that from winning. It's just what comes along the way. It's just there's something lacking in that squad. As Gorsty said, the goalkeeper situation's still quite uncertain. Like whoever starts out the two of them, and it's going to be Raya, you'd imagine, on Saturday. They're not elite goalkeepers in terms of Alisson. Like you can go through their strongest starting 11, and there's probably, from a Liverpool point of view, only two of them you'd say get in your starting 11 definitely, and that would be Saliba alongside Van Dijk and Declan Rice as the holding midfielder. You could maybe put an argument for Martinelli in there. Like I'm a big fan of Martinelli.
Odegaard, no?
Szoboszlai over him, like for the positions they actually play. If you go rather than just putting them in
it's
any
close.
team.
I think Odegaard maybe just shades it, but yeah.
But then like Salah, Saka, you go Salah. I know Arsenal fans will come and say, "Oh, Saka starts, Martinelli starts, and all this." But from a Liverpool point of view, you have faith in your players. You'd rather have a Nunez or a Gakpo or a Gabriel Jesus. There isn't much in it, and then you look at the players that have made the difference, that have won everything. Alisson, Van Dijk, Salah. Liverpool are ahead of them in those terms, and you've just got to make it count at the weekend. Like if Liverpool win that game, then you can have, say, Liverpool title favourites if they can keep it up. They're the ones who are going to be challenging City if City come back stronger second half of the season. I'm still not convinced Arsenal have got enough to get there. Like they're in the Champions League knockout stages. That's going to be a distraction for them. They've got a favourable draw. Can they really balance all of the competitions when it's at the business end of the season? They're going to pick up injuries. Can they manage that? This is stuff you get along the way, and you have to win that first trophy to take that step. Yeah. That first trophy is very rarely a Premier League title. Like they need something else to get there first, and well, they'll be thinking they can win the title. I'd still be more confident about Liverpool being those main challengers. And we're still saying main challengers for City. We've got to see what City do when they actually come back from the FIFA Club World Cup and what they can do second half of the season.
Yeah, I still think anyone sleeping on City is being a bit silly. Yeah. I think for Arsenal, it's a big psychological thing, and I think they've got to go away to Anfield and to the Etihad. Those two, where the teams that you're going to scrap it out with, you know. And I think for Liverpool, when they've won titles, they've got results in big places, and I still think Arsenal maybe when they've really, I mean, look at the Liverpool game last year. You know, they sort of, it felt like a defeat for them, didn't it? Because they sort of didn't pass that psychological test.
They were 2-0 down against Chelsea, and I think Sanchez kind of gifted them a route back into that game. I think they drew 2-2. Obviously lost against Newcastle, didn't he? And
lost at Villa Park.
Aston Villa, yeah. So it's a big question mark for this Arsenal team, how well equipped they are to go away to the big places in the Premier League and come away with a victory. Liverpool can kind of look at the last sort of 8 months now, isn't it? And they've only lost one game in the Premier League, and that was obviously the one with about 5 caveats next to it. So it's a huge one, but I just think if Anfield is what Klopp wants it to be, I just think that will put enough of the what's into Arsenal for Liverpool to profit. Yeah.
Okay, let's pick our team. Gorsty, we may as well stick with you. You've got the mic. Alisson obviously back in goal. Who's you back for?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the big question is what to do in the defensive mid position, isn't it? So I think Trent will start in his usual role. Tsimikas, for me, is really in a decent patch of form at the moment. Owing so much to rhythm and momentum they doesn't normally get. And then Van Dijk and Konate.
Theo?
I'd imagine it's going to be that'll be the 4, but I'd be tempted to put Gomez at right back to get Trent into midfield. You're up against, I think it'll be Martinelli on that side, and maybe having a bit more defensive solidity there without having the inverted fullback. You can just do what Liverpool are really good at and have been for years. Maybe that'd be the way to go. Yeah,
absolutely. I think that as well. I actually have a little sneaky suspicion he might do this because obviously the Trent change last season.
That was against Arsenal, wasn't it?
It was against Arsenal. Yeah. It sort of threw them a little bit, and I think it helped Liverpool get back into that game. And I think, I don't know, I feel like we've been moving towards this, and I feel like there's going to come a time when he will unleash it, and I wonder whether that is against Arsenal, and some of Trent's passing has been vital to Liverpool in recent weeks. So that's the route I'd go. Your midfield, Theo, then?
Szoboszlai, Trent and Curtis Jones. That could pretty much line up as a 2-3-1 or a 3, couldn't it? That works either way.
Yeah, same, yeah.
Yeah, I can see the merit in your thinking in terms of putting Gomez at right back and Trent into central midfield. The only issue for me is you might need someone with a little bit more defensive, natural instincts of Endo to counteract Odegaard, who's going to find those little pockets, isn't he? And he's superb when he gets the ball with those kind of laser guided passes. So I'll go with Endo. Curtis Jones is a shoe-in after Wednesday night, and Szoboszlai took a big step forward himself, I thought. So that'd be my midfield 3.
Sticking with you then, because I think the front 3 is quite interesting, not just in terms of personnel, but where you play them. So go on, what's your front 3?
Yeah, I mean, I could see the argument for Núñez off the left. Thought he was quite good on Wednesday night off there. It was good for the second half of last season, actually, when Gakpo came in, when he was kind of just shunted out there to accommodate him. But I still think he might go with him down the middle with Diaz on the left and Salah obviously on the right.
Okay.
Salah's on the right. I feel harsh on Harvey Elliott because he's a player we haven't mentioned loads, and he did so well in midweek. His time will come when Salah's at AFCON. I'm going to go Gakpo down the middle and Núñez on the left. I know Klopp said in his post-match that Diaz is a player who pretty much starts every game and they were resting him, but he hasn't quite looked the same this season. Obviously he's still feeling his way back from that bad injury. He's had what happened with his parents, and that's going to be a knock for anyone. Maybe it'll help him being out the spotlight a little bit. Like Gakpo's got a goal, build on that, and Núñez, he looks so lively on that wing, making things happen, and you're not quite relying on him as much for the goals if he's out wide. But yeah, they're going to cause chaos, and if it's those two, Gakpo and Núñez, they can rotate quite easily and cause problems.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. So give us a score prediction, Theo.
Let's go 3-2 Liverpool. Plenty of goals.
Nice, good game.
It's just huge, isn't it, if Liverpool win this? I'm going to go 2-1 Liverpool.
Yeah, my heart says 2-1, my head says 1-1. But I think it will be a good game, and I think they're two very good. I think it will be a Christmas cracker, Theo. Well, before we go, one last question to ask you, and don't just say 3 points against Arsenal, and don't just say the title. But what's your Christmas wish for Liverpool?
For Liverpool?
Yeah.
So I was about to start reeling off all the brands of rum that I want, to be honest.
It's a nice local rum, actually. Dockside rum. I've tried that.
Yeah. My Christmas wish for Liverpool.
We can't. Yeah, we can't have dead space.
It's kind of belated. Maybe it'd be a New Year wish, but a top class central defensive midfielder.
Yeah, it'd be nice. Theo?
Yeah, some players coming in January. We've seen it in the past with like Diaz coming in. It makes a difference.
Yeah, you're hard to buy for, and you just some players coming in.
Yeah,
just make it specific. So Father Christmas knows to go away and get something.
You'd like a new forward. You'd like a new holding midfielder, and you'd like a new centre back.
God, all right.
I'm not asking for much.
Not made of money, right? And well, for me, it's a trip to Dublin. A little trip to Dublin
Not a trip to Wembley for League Cup final as well.
I mean, we'll take that as red, won't we? I think Liverpool will see off Fulham and go and lift that 3.
Oh, can we say not Chelsea in the final?
Yeah, I want a bit of Middlesbrough
again.
Yeah, I said to you beforehand, I'd just have a bye. Just give us the final. Yeah, I don't mind. The path of least resistance. Before we go, just want to wish all our listeners a very Merry Christmas, or if you don't celebrate Christmas, a lovely holiday season with your family and friends. We appreciate you all. Thanks for listening. It's been a strange year. With lots of friends have sort of departed us along the way, but we appreciate all our listeners and can't wait to see you in the new year. See you then. Ta-ra.